Perfect. So welcome to our first virtual event back from the break. And I have to give Tom credit because he scrambled in, what was it, February to do one last meeting as things just moved to virtual, and we were planning to do on site, and then we were also planning to do our SharePoint Saturday, but life had other plans for us. So for now, let's move on to our agenda. We'll do a few announcements. We have a couple job openings here and there. If you have any other openings that you know of, please maybe share it on the chat window. That'll be great, so others can know about it. And then for our main presenter, we have Sesha, golden presenter for today. And we'll talk about next month and have some time to just chat and hang out. Great. So Microsoft is unofficially sponsoring because we're using the Microsoft Community tenant. This is a new tenant that Microsoft has provided to all of the user groups and event organizers to have like a single place where we can all join. I've sent an email probably about a couple weeks ago giving you access or giving you a link to register for this. If you register, you get your Microsoft community account, and you can, of course, join our team, right? We're part of the Vancouver user group. But if you join other user groups, you'll be using the same credentials. You will see the other teams listed there. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to percolate between other teams and see people from other locales, other regions, other interests to learn more about what people are doing, right? And I also put to the lead my employer as the another reluctant sponsor because this is part and parcel my part of my work time that I'm spending organizing and moving away with the event, doing all the organization. Great. From an announcements perspective, I think we probably might have a few new members. Are there anyone new so far? You can maybe raise a hand or unmute yourself. Looks like we don't have many new members. Well, what's not really news at this point is that we are now in virtual mode. The idea for the most part will be to stick with a noon timeline. I think it's much better than the afternoons because, well, we're kind of stuck in the computer anyway, most of us that are working remotely, and it's a good break from the day to have a good conversation outside of work, outside of coworkers. I know we spend a lot of time on screen, but this will do for now. In terms of events, there's a Microsoft Ignite, September 22 to 24th. Registration opened last week, and well, I'm already registered. Of course, it's really a 2-day event mostly, but it goes through the whole day, right? There's going to be sessions throughout the whole day, and as you would expect from an Ignite, expect not only Microsoft 365, but topics across the board on Power Platform, Azure, all the other good stuff that Microsoft has. I'm expecting more on Surface Duos and things like that. So expect a lot of new announcements. I think Duos and Neos, right, announcements will be really interesting to see what's new there and how people are starting to adapt to that new user interface, that new double pane of glass. That'll be good to see some of use cases there and how they adapt to making work easier. Couple more events that are local on the Canadian side is the Saturday Saskatchewan. It's I didn't put the date. I think it's October 2nd. I'll double check that while we're on the break, but it's October 2nd, I believe. And then virtual Microsoft 365 Saturday Ottawa, October 17. You can, of course, now cruise the world with Saturdays and virtual events all over the place. So it's never a dull moment now with so much community involvement and the ability to do it from anywhere. I noticed for job openings, at least I have one that I saw from Collabware, senior cloud software engineer. Looks like a lot of people are now expanding their breadth and moving more to that cloud engineer role, uh, evolving from maybe just a SharePoint engineer or architect into more of a cloud engineer as we also look at Microsoft 365 holistically and leverage some of the tools that Azure also provides to complement maybe a whole solution from end to end. It's really about picking the right tools for the right job. To lead again, we're still hiring consultants. I think our emphasis right now it's more on developers, technical project managers, and we also have one spot for a sales or marketing leader. Uh, so I know that that would be an interesting one to fill out. I think it's the team is growing, and it'll be good to have more support on that aspect. Great. So if you know anyone, please send them the to-do lead ones, send them my way. Collabware, send them on the way of Tom. Any others? Of course, if you want to be featured, let us know at contact us at bano365.com. We have today's presentation. I have Sesha, and I'm going to give Sesha the floor, so I won't talk much about what he's going to talk about. I will also talk about next month's presentation. I already have our own Michael Pisarek. He will be joining us to talk about strategic governance for Microsoft Teams. Very exciting moment because Michael has just started his new venture with Orchestry Software. They've delivered a new product that, again, hits the nail. I think they hit well the iron still hot on site provisioning and governance. So it's a really interesting presentation and also a really interesting product that they're coming with. So keep an eye out for that, and hopefully we'll see you at the next meeting next month. With that, I think we'll give the floor back to Sesha. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Kate. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can folks hear me okay from a sound perspective?
Okay.
Yeah, awesome, good, very good. Let me share my screen. So first of all, just want to thank Miguel for reaching out to me and establishing this particular in this forum, having an opportunity for me to share the modern collaboration and communication with Microsoft 365. I think some of you might know me already. I'm Sesha Mani. I'm the principal group product manager in SharePoint and OneDrive product team. I've been with the team for almost about 7 years, with Microsoft for about 12 years now. And I'm very excited to be here to share with you a quick overview on this. And more importantly, also, I want to make it more interactive. So feel free to raise your hands whenever you have a question. I'll have talk through it for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A session for about 10 to 15 minutes. Sounds like a plan, Miguel? Yep. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead. First of all, thank you, Vancouver. And I think I was there in the Vancouver Saturday back in 2018. And you can see that picture on the left-hand side, me presenting, and then at the top with the folks who were there along with me. Oliver was there as well. I'm sure I'm missing some names here. But thank you for the community and what you do for this whole ecosystem to develop. And also, this nature is we are working in a remote everything world. And we as a Microsoft 365 definitely continue to be customer driven. And especially in these days with respect to first responders and also education, where all the students are now remotely learning and most of them use Microsoft 365 products. So We are very driven and ensuring that the experience that they get is much to the par. And also from a business point of view, every business is, in remote these days. In these unprecedented times, we want to help them with Microsoft 365. And also everyday life, like things we are doing right now, is all over virtual. So if at all, it has helped us to be much more customer driven than before, this whole situation itself. And also Microsoft 365, if I look at the history, it has evolved tremendously. Back in 2008, when we introduced to all the way now in April 2020, if you see that about in Office 365, we see about 256 million monthly active usage. And especially in SharePoint has grew 10 times since we announced the feature of SharePoint even a few years ago. On the other hand, Teams has the 75 million daily active users and about 5 billion daily minutes these days. So we built this whole system together. So thank you again for all the support you do. Recently, Satya also mentioned that with the COVID situation, what we are seeing is 2 years of digital transformation happens in just 2 months. So that's how much growth that we are seeing in our services these days. And I'll double click on specifically in Microsoft 365, we see this as a world's productivity cloud in 2 angles, communications and then content. And then also from the persona perspective, end user experiences is super critical. At the same time, admin experience, IT administrator experience, and then also developer extensibility ecosystem is also super critical as well for this ecosystem. And specifically for Microsoft Teams, it's the hub for teamwork. And I think pretty much everybody is using Teams these days. Yeah, all of you. Yeah, I'm trying to see some nods in your head. Yeah, so basically, our goal is like to make it as a one place for your collaboration and communication. So chatting, calling, meeting, files collaboration as well, coming very closely into Teams experience. So in terms of SharePoint, as I think many of you know already, it's an intelligent content experiences is the core of SharePoint. So we look at the experiences like files, sites, list, and now recently with Project Cortex, the knowledge management is evolving as well across Microsoft 365. In terms of the specifically for Teams, let me quickly run this video.
Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork
folks hear the
in
video,
Microsoft
audio?
365. It's one place where people can chat,
Yep, yeah, it's coming.
work together. But now that video conferences are the new normal, there are times when people need to feel like they're in the same room. That's when you can turn on Together mode. It puts your team in one shared space. Microsoft AI helps break down barriers, letting you communicate more naturally and feel more connected to your team. It works for coffee breaks, team meetings, or your next all hands. So from every get-togethers, be together, even when you're apart.
How many of you have tried Together mode recently?
I have tried it a couple times. Our HR meetings every Monday, we try to use it, at least just get one final look at everyone as we just hit the week.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah. Do you like it? So far, it's good to see everybody's face all at once. Yeah.
I think it's a very creative way to start finding new ways of bringing us closer together. I like that 3-view panel, almost like you're at the like in Hell's Kitchen, you're being judged, or it's. I like that one, right? Almost like an interview type setting. It could be a good one for sure. So really looking forward to those other experiences coming soon. Together mode, it's a great start. Edu would love it. If there's only a way to sit in the back row, that'll be awesome.
The option to sit in the back row. Yeah, so that's definitely, in fact, we use it all the time in our meetings. It's a good way to bring together everybody, even though we are all working remotely, virtually these days. Now, the other aspect is OneDrive. I think we just briefly touched on the Sync Up podcast earlier in this session, and where we focus a lot on specifically Microsoft 365 files experience in OneDrive. And recently, Add to OneDrive is an experience we have added so that anywhere you are in the files experience, you can say, pin this to my OneDrive so that I can see it pinned in my OneDrive experience, and I can manage or I can work with the files right from my experience itself. So also any experiences like in one-on-one chat that you do in Teams, it is also powered by OneDrive behind the scene as well. So we do a lot of investments like Add to OneDrive in this context of files collaboration. The next one I would say is around SharePoint employee and education solutions. So we have a lookbook called SharePoint Lookbook. How many of you are familiar with that? Have you heard about it? Yeah. Kate, if you just go to, for Kate's benefits, it's lookbook.microsoft.com. That's the URL. And if you go there, you can see what you're seeing on the left-hand side on the top here, Kate, that shows you the templates that are available that you can download and use it in your tenant immediately. And these are all, as you can see, beautiful out-of-the-box templates that are available to get going in building an intelligent and beautiful sites on top of SharePoint. So I strongly encourage you to try this out. And also, we are looking at bringing the SharePoint security lookbook as well, cookbook as well. And that is something we will bring it up later on at Ignite, which is in a few weeks. We'll share with you the URL for that as well. In the context of education, we have a template for education-focused solutions too. So I encourage you to look at that aspect as well. And then here, in terms of Project Cortex, which is one of our new innovation area for knowledge network, like as the digital data comes into the Microsoft 365 space, and as your coworkers or your clients, customers are interacting with you digitally more and more, the fundamental problem is how do you discover, how do you bring in expertise together in your organization, right? And that's where Project Cortex helps you a lot in providing you kind of a graph visualization of your knowledge in the company, in your organization. So for example, you can see in the image here, we show you a graph about the knowledge. So for example, like Sesha is an expert in security and compliance, then who are the people that he works with within Microsoft, and then what are the expertise of those specific people and actual topics that are of interest in your organization. That will also automatically get curated and showcased to you as well. As you can see in the Teams chat on the right-hand side, there is a reference to a project core. And in this particular project core, as you can see, there is a topic card that shows up there. So this is automatically detected that in your organization, there is a project ongoing called Project Core. And here are the people that are associated with the project. And here is the quick description of that project as well. So the moment you have turned on Project Cortex in your tenant, you get all these intelligent capabilities start popping up and bringing the knowledge to you rather than you have to go and seek out the knowledge as well. So that's our journey that we are getting started with the knowledge management there. And then also the Microsoft List, which is our recent popular feature that we announced. I'm sure you have heard about Microsoft List. Yeah?
I have.
Miguel, yeah? Go ahead, Miguel, you had a question?
I had a couple questions. How does the there's this new Project Neo or new employee onboarding experience? How does that relate to the lookbook?
I think it's the same concept, which is a template, right? So basically, Lookbook is about providing you the templates, site templates that you can use to build up a beautiful and intelligent site very quickly. And employee onboarding is one another site template that's being made available. Same thing for education. We have new templates that are available as part of the cookbook as well.
Oh, great. Great, great, great. And then
Yeah.
for Project Cortex, is it there yet? Is it live yet?
Yeah, it's actually in preview right now.
Okay.
And I believe you need to be in certain licensing in order to get into the preview, but you can shoot me offline and I can connect you with the preview folks so that you can try that out as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Microsoft Lists, this is the, I would say, much more innovative SharePoint lists that some of you are aware of, and we're bringing a lot more automation as well as the richer scenarios that are being enabled with the Microsoft List portfolio. And let me actually go to the next one. The foundation for all of these key features that I talked about, like Teams, OneDrive, Microsoft List, Project Cortex, and so on, is under security and compliance aspects. And I think, especially for most of you, you work on governance and compliance and security related aspects. So this might be a very relevant topic for you. As you know, Microsoft 365 runs on trust, and we have, with the experiences of enterprise customers in the last 20, 25 years, we have really, I would say, built an enterprise-grade cloud security with local data centers. In Canada, we have data centers there. And recently, we also launched in Germany, Switzerland, and very soon in Norway and Poland as well. So the goal is to ensure that you are ready to share or have your data locally closer to your employees so that you can meet data residency like requirements with our multi-geo capabilities, where you can have a Microsoft 365 tenant that is headquartered in Canada, for example, but then you have a satellite locations in US, in Europe, in Japan, for example. And by virtue of deploying a multi-geo tenant, you get the benefit of a single organization collaboration experience. But at the same time, you meet the compliance regulations of the local countries as well. So that's a multi-geo tenancy. Classification, labeling, and protection is another key aspect. This is one area where we are investing a lot. And recently, we've announced general availability of classification labels. How many of you have heard about that recently? Classification labels or Microsoft information protection labels?
I get so confused about that because I've heard of retention labels, sensitivity labels, protection labels, classification. Like, which one is which, and which ones are an evolution of an existing labels that maybe I shouldn't be using versus this is the set that you need for either retain or protect content.
Got it. Actually, let me actually clarify that, Miguel. I mean, thanks for bringing up that point. So the Microsoft information protection is the umbrella term that we use for anything with respect to protecting your data. You're right, there are several labels that we throw around, or at least being used for many years now. The first one that you mentioned, retention label. So that is primarily meant for compliance reasons, to retain your content for a certain number of years. So I think you're very familiar with that concept. And continue to be, retention labels will be there, and you do want to use them in the context of compliance. Mm-hmm. Then we have another label. We just, I think we are, I would say, consolidating and bringing it as one thing, which is sensitivity label. It's about the sensitivity of the content, and that's for security purposes. So for example, you have a top secret content, so you want to secure it much more tightly, right? Whereas if it is a general public content, then you don't need to have that much security on it. So sensitivity label is about security. And those are the only two labels that you need to be thinking about. One for compliance, one for security purposes.
And when we say classification label?
So classification is, I'm using that as a general top level item. I think
Oh, okay.
any data, like if you have a data, you want to be able to first classify. And for example, I want to say from a context of security,
Oh,
I
okay,
want
okay.
to be able to say, I classify this as top secret. I classify this as confidential. I classify this as general from a context of security.
Got it.
Then from the context of compliance, I want to be able to say, oh, I want to know all the content that is retained for 10 years. Or I want to see the content that is flagged as tax forms. It's a classification, right? It's a form of classification. Just a
Mm-hmm.
general term. Classification is a general term. In fact, yes, you can see in the picture in the right-hand side here, where this is the real dashboard, right? Everything about labels, we try to give it to you in one shot, like data classification shot. So as you can see, I have a top sensitivity labels applied. So I can see all the general, confidential, top secret files in this Microsoft 365 tenant. And then I also see the retention labels. What are the top retention labels applied in my tenant as well, correct? So you can see both the distributions for sensitivity label and retention labels. And we also show you which locations where they are actually applied the most. So for example, are they applied in SharePoint Online or OneDrive the most or Exchange? So we give you that Microsoft 365 view of where the sensitive content are being used in your organization. And same thing is true for retention labels as well. Make sense?
Makes sense.
So somewhat, yeah.
Is there, is, am I still talking about sensitivity labels when I think AIP type labels where I can encrypt or select specific people that can see my file or an email that should not be printed?
Absolutely. Yeah. You are talking about sensitivity label when you talk
Okay.
about that encryption. Because if you think about it, what you're doing with the encryption policy is really you are trying to create a security protection policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to protect so that if a file is encrypted with top secret label, only Sesha and Miguel and Kate can open the file. That's a security policy that you are attaching. And that means it's just a sensitivity label, right?
Okay.
And just you apply the label to the file, then automatically all those security encryption policies are now enforced on that file. Make
Got
sense?
it. And that label, the act of labeling the file itself as it travels, maybe through a USB or an email, also comes with that sensitivity configuration, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The
Oh,
protection or the security travels with the file. Absolutely.
okay.
So that is the key benefit of having a sensitivity label or the with the protection added there.
Correct.
So
Because
there's really,
you also
yeah.
have the container level
Mhm.
where you can say this SharePoint site in particular or this team in particular will have its own classification for security, right? It could be
Mhm.
marked as top secret or confidential.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm glad I was going to go to that as the next topic. Absolutely. So if you think about it, either you have a choice to protect each and every individual file, right? That is what we do today. Now we are taking to the next level or giving you much more broader experience where you holistically you can protect or secure the whole site itself or a team itself. Because um, if you protect or secure the whole site itself, then you don't have to worry about if there are 100 files in it or 50 files in it or a million files in that particular site. It doesn't matter. It is in that secure container. And because of that, we are providing you ability to attach a sensitivity label to a SharePoint site or to a team. So you
Mhm.
can just create a top secret team and SharePoint site, and you can apply associated security policies. So think about one policy like I have a top secret site, and I want people to access the site only if they come from managed device, right? IT managed device. If Miguel is coming from his personal device, I don't want him to have access to that particular site. Like, it doesn't matter what he's trying to do because it's a top secret site. Why would I let him access it from his personal device, right?
Of course.
You can apply now that level of policy right there at the site level and at the team level itself, which is a very, I would say, a holistic way of thinking about security and not at the individual file level. So that is the evolution that we are going through.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'll mute myself now. Okay.
Yeah, if anyone else has questions, feel free to, like I said, I want to make this as more dialogue. So anyone else has question? Kate, you have any question?
I could keep talking. I just finished a project on
Muted,
compliance, so it's sort of fresh in my mind, some of these concepts, but I had to do quite a bit of ramp up, right, to really get a good handle on the broad spectrum and then the key details of each one of the technologies and their uses. What are the key benefits, all of that good stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me touch on a few other things, then I'll pass for questions. The second one, other one I would call out is called the information barriers. This is also another key compliance and governance feature, where imagine you want to have SharePoint sites or team that is meant for, let's say, research department in your organization. And this research department, they work on version 5 or next versions of their product. So they want to protect that information such that only that research department people can access it. Typically in financial sector, we see this through a compliance called FINRA. The FINRA compliance is all about controlling, or in some cases blocking, insider trading. So the research department leaking information to, let's say, investment bankers, right? So you want to be able to protect or put barriers between these two business groups, research and investment bankers. And that's where information barriers like compliance features helps you a lot. The way it helps you is you can define Miguel and Sesha belongs to research business group, and Kate and let me pick Sarah belongs to investment bankers, right? Now you can have a policy, a compliance policy that says these two business groups cannot communicate and collaborate with each other because of the nature of the work that they do. So in that, once that policy is set up, if I, Sesha, go and try to have a Teams chat with Kate, I will get blocked because the policy says me as a researcher not allowed to communicate with Kate because she is working in investment bankers. And you got to prove this to your auditors, to your compliance officers, saying that I have these controls in place so that I can protect Sesha and Miguel, or restrict them from communicating and collaborating with Sarah and Kate as well. So it's a very premium advanced compliance capability that is we just announced general availability in SharePoint and OneDrive. And if you haven't tried it out, I strongly encourage you to try that out as well, especially if you are helping your clients with governance and compliance. These sort of features are really, you should have them in your back pockets for sure. Okay. Then the other one I would call out is device management. I think we just touched on it, where you can have a much advanced security policy where top secret sites and teams are accessible only from devices that are managed. And you want to have a delineation between managed devices to personal devices or unmanaged devices so that you can tailor the security policies appropriately. So we even give you that granular level of control to decide if Sarah comes from unmanaged device accessing a confidential team, then don't let her access it, block her. On the other hand, if she's trying to access, let's say, a training site, it's okay, let her access it and be productive in the site. So that is the key aspect that we are bringing together with device management and with the sensitivity labels as well. So let me pause there for a minute for further questions on this regard.
I think the main question on on my perspective is what's a managed device nowadays in the world of everyone's working remotely? Maybe they were sent a laptop, and is it is it is it necessarily joined to AD anymore? I don't know.
I mean, managed is defined as how your organization or your client is defining it, right? It is Azure Active Directory joined. You have some configurations in Azure Active Directory that you require devices to be joined to Azure Active Directory, and it is managed by the MDM providers like the device management solutions like Intune or Mobile Iron or any of those MDM solutions. Correct. So you get to define what is the managed means. Both it has to be AAD joined and MDM managed, or just AAD joined is fine for you. So you get to decide it in the Azure Active Directory as the security admin for your organization. And whatever you decide there, that's what Teams and Microsoft 365 will use that information, saying, is Miguel signing in from a managed device or an unmanaged device?
Correct. So I would assume a lot of this works in tandem with conditional access policies. And I've always been a little bit afraid of looking at the admin center in OneDrive or SharePoint, clicking on that section, thinking, if I make a change here, am I going to break the work that my colleagues are doing on the conditional access policy side?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So you can think of the Azure Active Directory conditional access layer. That's the coarse-grained conditional access, right? It allows you to configure, hey, can Mikul or Kate access SharePoint app or OneDrive app from these IP addresses or from these devices or not? What we do at the SharePoint Admin Center that you are referring to is the fine-grained conditional access, where you are deciding, oh, I want to have fine-grained conditional access for my SharePoint content. What I mean by that is I can say for top secret sites, allow access only from managed device. For general and public sites, allow access from any device. So that's a fine-grained access control that you are defining. And that's what you are defining in SharePoint. So whatever you do in the SharePoint land is not going to adversely affect what your colleagues did in Azure Active Directory. Like what we do is normally when you turn on something in SharePoint side, we actually just create behind the scene a default conditional access policy without touching any existing ones, so that in SharePoint you can have fine-grained conditional access policy. So don't worry about like, will it have my adverse impact into the AAD colleagues, whatever they are doing? It should not have any impact there.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Other folks like Erwin, Hector, Sarah, or Kate, any questions or comments? Or am I going too deep?
Erwin.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. What about you, Kate? You are muted. You are muted, Kate.
I know I'm muted. I'm expecting you to read my lips. I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, it's more than I've been exposed to forever. So yeah, it's all kind of brand new and high level, and I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we are all learning, so there is definitely, it's a super interesting space, a lot more to learn here. Okay, so let me And then the next one I would say is, we go to the next slide. I just want to share one customer story, because always I want to bring the story together with the customer who have adapted it. So Bridgewater is a customer who has, it's a well-known financial customer, and they have adopted the remote work with the zero trust security model using Microsoft 365. So what that means is they have adopted the sensitivity labels, retention labels capabilities that I just talked about, and also the Azure Active Directory conditional access policies and fine-grained policies in SharePoint as well. And the notion of zero trust security model, what that means is, if you remember, if you go back like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, typically the organizations have a physical firewall, and they have content in their on-premises, and they say, hey, Sesha, if you want to access corporate data, you must VPN in, and then you must have this additional badge in order to get the one-time passcode, and then you log in, and then only you get access to any corporate data. It doesn't matter whether it is top secret data, general data, whatsoever. But really, there's a paradigm shift has happened in the industry, such that now the data actually lives in the cloud, right? Like Microsoft 365. So if you expect to have some sort of firewall and all, that's gone. So really, you need to be able to define your security policy such that between your user and your data, there is really zero trust. You can't trust any Wi-Fi network that is in the middle, or what application that Sesha is using to access the data. All those things are there. This is why, remember the labels that I talked about and the protection that goes along with it? That's the way to go. So you need to say, I have a top secret data and I have a security policies for it. I have confidential data and I have a security policies for it. And I have general data and I have security policies. So define that. And then your users are actually your firewalls. So if users are trying to access appropriate security data, like top secret versus general, then you provide them appropriate experience. Like if Miguel is trying to access a top secret site from a personal device, then block him, because he's not supposed to access a top secret site from his. That's how the mental shift, paradigm shift is happening in the security model. And many customers like Bridgewater are now, I would say, championing this zero trust model to get into it. So that's a great story. And this is actually available in our Microsoft Customer Stories site. So feel free to reference them as well.
This looks great. So fresh, August 10.
It's, yes, just
a month old.
A month old, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then the last one I would leave you with is the platform. This is the platform. Microsoft 365, has its own first-party experiences that I showed you, as well as it has the extensible platform that customers and partners can build off of, like Teams bots or using SharePoint framework to build your extensible applications. Graph API, I'm pretty sure many of you are already aware of it. So we do have very extensive platform for you to build on top of as well and meet the niche needs of some of the customers. And here's my last slide, which is building on Teams and SharePoint. Clearly, it's on top of Azure services, Microsoft 365 Graph, and the information protection that I talked about. And then also the thing I didn't spend a lot of time on, but there's another aspect called Power Platform, including Power Automate, Power Apps that you can build to extend SharePoint and Teams functionality to the next level as well. So you can use Teams and SharePoint as a platform and build using these frameworks like Graph and Power Platform to take this to the next level as well. So let me stop there. That was my last slide. Any other questions or discussions you want to have?
I think one key thing on Power Platform, I saw maybe a couple days ago, there's this new DLP for Power Platform scenario where you can also organize the different types of connectors that you have, right? For work or for personal use, and the organization will organize those in a way so that if they don't want you to maybe share on Facebook what you do at work, maybe you can't use those two connectors. But maybe if they say for any reason you're using MailChimp, you want to connect those two pieces, easy to do as long as they're part of the business connectors on both sides. And then there's the completely block connectors where maybe you just definitely don't want people messing around with certain connectors. Just add them there.
Yeah. That is true. It's coming to the point where differentiating between business-oriented connectors to your personal life connectors and ensuring there is no leakage of data between these two. And that's where the DLP policies will come into play. And same thing is true for Teams chat as well. You can create DLP policies and protect their Teams chat is not, for example, if somebody is in the Teams chat sharing the social security number or credit card numbers, you can block such sensitive information going through in the Teams chat as well, for example.
That almost begs the question. I know there's Azure Key Vault for secrets, right? But let's also think it's not necessarily a solution that's user-friendly, right? Like Marion Accounting, I don't see her going to Azure Key Vault for, I don't know, the latest password and things like that. Would you say there's a solution for Marion Accounting for getting the password to maybe a system?
And when you say password, are you referring to like users' passwords or
like smaller companies, for example, they have, I don't know, their accounting software and they share the password for that.
I see. I mean, it really depends. Typically we recommend for the accounting firm to share anything with other players. Just use, depending on what data you're trying to share. If it is files, obviously just use the OneDrive and SharePoint sharing experience to share the files itself. And then the receivers will just use their own credentials to log in and access your content.
Oh, yeah.
Second of all, this is the external sharing, right? Using the external sharing as an example. If you want to manage their experiences, meaning you want to hand out a credential to them, you want to create a user account, then just create a user account in your tenant and then say, hey, Miguel, if you want to access my data, here is the account that you should be using. And I'm managing the password policies for that particular account, meaning I can set whatever the password complexity or length required and so on. And that way, within Azure Active Directory on my tenant, I get to manage all those things. For these solutions, going into Azure Key Vaults looks like a stretch. Like, I don't think you need to go all the way into that level to achieve it. Azure Key Vault, the good use case for that is, so imagine a financial customer tells you, I really need to have my own encryption key that I want all my data to be protected in my tenant as a master key. We have a scenario called bring your own key or customer key. So customer can bring their own encryption key. But that kind of scenario, we say use Azure Key Vault. Tell us what is the encryption key that you want to use for your tenant. And then we would use that key to, seed the encryption keys for your tenant. So that is kind of scenario where Azure Key Vault is really helpful for you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Kate, Erwin, any questions?
No questions, thank you, Sesha. I'm just trying to absorb what you're saying.
Same here.
Again,
Hector.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Just one thing. I'm glad you are recording the session because, believe it or not, I'm working and I've been distracted. And I wanted to suggest a different time frame because, you know, in the middle of the day, some of us, I'm sure some of us cannot really attend. And thank you, Sesha. It's very good for you to do this. That's my comment.
Pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you, Victor. Yeah. I think we'll confirm on timelines or times. Certainly in virtual mode, it's somewhat easier for people to join in during lunch hour or something. As most people just try to shut down the curtain and go back to their families and everything. So it's not as like in the good old days where you could just drive up, have a nice session and do that. So let's let me check with the group and see if we can make something like this. The recordings for sure we'll keep and we'll make available for you and everyone else.
Awesome.
Great.
Before I wrap up, Miguel, can I take one together mode picture if folks can turn on the video so that we can take a quick together mode picture? Yeah. What I mean by together mode is, I don't know whether people have seen it. This is what I mean by that. Can folks see it?
No.
You gotta go a little bit too far.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so what you do is you just go to, let me actually stop sharing my presentation.
Hector.
Hector. That's the screen. Where's Erwin?
Easier, you know?
Where's Erwin? Get Erwin in there.
Where is where is Erwin? Oh yeah, Erwin was there actually. That's right. Okay. All right. Let me. I'll count 3, 2, 1, and then be ready. Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1, and you can wave your hands, by the way. And 3, 2, 1. Say cheese.
Cheese.
Excellent.
Right, give me one. Give me one more.
Are you going to show us how to do that?
We need one more.
Yeah, just one more. Yeah.
What are you going to do, Miguel? Are you going to do this?
No.
All right, so we'll do one more hand wave. Oh, here we go.
There, all right.
Now we're talking.
All right, sounds good. All right, one more. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, right in front of my face.
All right, perfect.
All right. Perfect.
That's
well,
the screen. Are you going to show us how to do that?
Yes, I can.
Because I have some customers that would really like to know how to do that.
Sure, absolutely. Let me share that with you. Let's copy that.
Thank you.
So you just go to, I'm assuming, Kate, you're using Teams, right? Just go to the Teams dot, 3 dots that you see the more actions.
Yeah.
And can you see my screen? So if you see, there is typically the default option is gallery is the option that you have. And
I don't have that. Show. I don't. Oh, over here.
Underneath that, there is an option called Together Mode Preview. And that's what you need to select in order to see the view that I'm showing.
Together Mode Preview. Okay. I can't see anything right now. All I have is the more actions in the menu at the bottom, and it doesn't give me that. Maybe I go device settings.
So if the menu at the bottom is if your menu is at the bottom, you still need to enable the new experience.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have just the menu at the bottom.
Don't worry. I can talk you through it.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot, folks. Hope the information was very helpful for you.
It was really good.
Happy to let me know. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Sesha.
Sesha, it was great to see you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we're looking forward to our next session and to see you soon.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thanks a lot.
Stay safe.
Bye
Thank you, folks. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye for now.